So let's see what he's talking about. Hey, how's it going?
You've been evicted from another parking lot.
There's no way. We just shopped here, and I just talked to your other guy who stopped too.
Manager Ron just told me he wants you guys out of here.
Did you call him?
No.
Broken the deal. So Manager Ron just called you out of nowhere. We've been here 10 minutes. He wants us out of here.
He does. He says he wants you guys out of here. Right?
Manager Ron?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you're Officer Heller?
Yes, sir.
We'll leave. We're gonna park on the right of way now. You know that, right?
249.
We're gonna be right here in the right of way. We'll see if the city kicks us out of the right of way. See how it happens.
Sounds good.
All right. So you see what they're trying now. Manager Ron apparently with the Home Depot kicked us out. We both know that Manager Ron didn't call him. They called Manager Ron and brokered that deal. But you know, I got to do what I had to do. So that's what he's doing.
That's a dog.
They're playing games.
Or a cat, maybe.
Police Department being recorded. How may I help you?
Yes, ma'am. I'm actually calling concerning a call that may or may not have been made to your police department this morning from Home Depot. I want to verify that there was actually a call placed to your department.
Around what time this morning?
Around 9 o'clock a.m., between 9 and 10 a.m. Concerning, I guess, a blue bus.
I don't see any. No, I don't see any calls at Home Depot that were called in. We had officers do business checks, but not a call that we received.
What is a business check? Is just like a patrol or something?
Yeah, just when they go there on their own.
On their own. The reason I guess I need to talk to a watch commander then. In this case, our auditor was standing on the right of way on the corner of 192 and Commerce Center Boulevard, I believe it is.
Yep.
And he was holding a sign that said "Unprepared for quarantine." That was the only words on the sign. One of your officers pulled up and told him that he can't panhandle. My auditor, I was actually with him filming, explained to him that it's not panhandling to hold a sign that has a statement on it, and you're not soliciting for any donations. You're making a statement that rights are cannot be infringed upon under immunity codes that are to prevent traffic flow issues or accosting issues, whatever immunity code might exist that might come against someone for solicitation or other things. They don't have anything to do with that.
Yep.
And so the officer didn't seem to understand, but he was willing to listen, and he left. And then immediately after, another officer showed up, and then a third. One of those officers being Officer Heller. And Officer Heller, he did something a little more egregious than not understanding panhandling versus protected activity. What he did was he pulled into the Home Depot parking lot, which we were parked in with our tour bus, and he said that the Home Depot manager by the name of Ron had asked them to evict us from the lot, which I felt to be really weird because I was actually
used the word trespass, but okay.
Or he actually said the word evicted, but I understand what he meant. But he said you've been evicted from this lot, and I said I don't think that's possible. We've been here 10 minutes or so, and I was actually walking out of the store with a bag full of stuff when he pulled up, so it didn't seem right. I fortunately videotape and audio record every interaction I have with police officers, so I have all this on video records. Then Officer Heller said, they want you to leave. So while we thought that was odd, we still left, and I immediately contacted Home Depot, who refuted that claim and said that's not true at all. And so I contacted your station asking to speak with the watch commander, and was transferred to several different places, one being the secretary of your officers or something, and various other transfers, but I had never received a call back from those people. And so I called probably about noon that I made my original call, and then we just had two of your officers drive by us again just now. And then once Officer Heller told us that, and I realized the information was false, so he used his color of law, the color of authority, to trespass us from a property where the owner or authorized agent had expressed no desire for that action, nor did the officer have any reason to do so. And it seemed to me as it was he was personally begrudged by the videotaping and the lack of knowledge of what would constitute solicitation versus First Amendment. Then at that point in time, we moved the bus over to another lot, and since we've been in that lot, I've seen 24 officers sitting in the lot at different times, or maybe the same officers, but I don't know if they just spend a lot of time in this public slot, if that's just something they do, but there's a lot of time being spent here by your officers. But that's neither here nor there. My complaint is about Officer Heller's actions.
Okay. Did you speak to Roy at Home Depot?
I spoke to Manager Craig, who took over from Manager Ron. Manager Craig assured me that did not happen, nor would it happen. I also contacted Home Depot corporate, who has no record of anything like that happening. And Manager Ron will be back in at 6 a.m., and I'll discuss it with him then. The idea that someone would be blindsided by a police officer saying that a manager of a store they were literally just shopping in wants them trespassed as they're leaving the store with no previous, it doesn't sound right at all. Like there's no reason to believe that the officer was telling the truth. And your dispatcher, I just spoke to her at your police department to get the call number, because there would be a call to represent where Officer Ron called in, and she told me there is no calls of such activity.
Look for a truck. Every time a report's done, it gets sent through me, and I'm the one that does the final approving, including a trespass warning,
okay,
which what you were describing would have been. Now, I don't see that. One has not come in. There's not been one generated. So what I've seen in frequent times, and I have seen the video of your interaction with him. So what does happen and becomes common practice for us is that a business such as, in this case, Home Depot, the management or representing the management or authority to ask us to call us to ask a person to leave, we ask them, what do you want? Do you want this person trespassed? Now, a lot of times, and I'm not saying this happened because I don't have personal knowledge, I wasn't there, but a lot of times what will happen from the management is they'll ask us, they'll say, nah, I don't want to trespass them. I just like them to leave now. If you can go and talk to them and see if they're willing to leave, I don't want them trespassed.
No, I understand that. That's
possible. And I'm not saying it is, but it's possible that that's the situation that arises. And I'm thinking that because I don't see a
call.
Trespass, and Officer Heller has been on my squad for the majority of his training, and I've directly been involved in his training with responding to trespass calls, believe it or not, as well as firsthand knowledge on educating him on how to respond and deal with people as yourself, auditors, people that like to audit First Amendments amongst law enforcement. So I've directly had my hand in teaching him about these things.
Okay.
So I can tell you that he knows the difference between a trespass and the scenario just played out where the management is asking for someone to leave. So he is versed in this stuff. I know I haven't talked to him specifically about this complaint because obviously I'm talking to you about it right now.
Right.
So I'll speak to him to find out kind of his side tomorrow and whether or not he had his body camera on when he was talking to Ron or Roy. We said Ron?
He told me I'm manager Ron. He might have been saying, he may have remembered the name wrong. It did not sound, if you want, and I can only speak of what I believe. I don't believe there was a call, and I think that he might have had a previous dealing with the manager and maybe it was Manager Roy, and you know his name better than that guy does, than Heller does.
I think I'm just messing it up.
Okay.
But we're also, at some point today, the same person that was at Walmart, kind of with a similar situation?
Well, not very similar. This morning at Walmart, very early, an officer came up and said that Walmart wanted us to leave, which that makes sense because we were at Walmart overnight. We sometimes Walmart lets us stay overnight. Sometimes they don't. They typically don't send police though. They usually just tell us we can't be in the lot, or they have posted signs that says you can't. In this case, a police officer, who was very respectful, by the way, he stopped by and told us we had to leave, and that's why we moved over to Home Depot, and I was doing my shopping there. Also, Walmart didn't have any hand sanitizer or toilet paper, so that didn't help much.
Yeah, so where I was going with that one was, I remember hearing the calls come out. There was multiple ones. There was one from, I believe it was the Home Depot, and then the first one that was from the Walmart. And I was made aware, being supervisor of the day, that there's possibly First Amendment auditors that were driving a bus and in the Walmart parking lot, and then they moved to Home Depot. So I was made aware of them, so I was specifically listening for any calls that were coming out regarding if you had calls or if someone was calling about suspicious activity or any of that stuff. So I was consciously aware of, that you guys are in the city and that you do this. I would be a poor supervisor if I didn't try to educate my personnel about the good work that you do. And I do think work that you do that.
We appreciate your work as well. That is definitely a vice versa. I'm very much appreciative of proper law enforcement, and I don't like to be the bearer of bad news when there are discrepancies or minor misconducts. It's our duty, and also it's something that I think that you as a supervisor can appreciate, getting the proper feedback.
I need that. I need feedback from the community, because I obviously can't be everywhere at once.
Right.
So you're basically out there being an extension of me, making sure that we're doing everything that we are supposed to be doing when we're supposed to be doing it. So
thank you for seeing it that way, sir.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of value in having you guys out there. You keep us on our toes.
Yeah, and we're always reactive. Our team never films behind what kind of secure areas. I've seen a lot of auditors that they do things that, and I'm not saying what's right or wrong. Everybody's got their own morals and then legalities. But I've just never been the type of person that wanted to go and make someone feel uncomfortable with a camera. So all of our audits are only when police show up to react to what we know is constitutionally protected activity. But yet the community might call it because of stigmas. They might call police over stigmas that they've been taught or that they have in themselves. And then we just monitor and collect the data on how police respond to non-criminal calls to the police, because all of our audits are reactive.
We're in a good business there, because half of the calls that we go to are civil in nature, and there's not a lot of law enforcement authority that we have in particular situations.
Right.
And very quickly though, in some of those situations, such as take for example the trespass situation that you're dealing with, that could go very quickly from a civil, the property owner wants to restrict who they allow on their property, to now they're giving a directive that they want you away from there and you're refusing to leave. It quickly goes from that civil to
criminal. Yeah.
It could, right. That's why, at least in the city of St. Cloud, they call us, they being the business entities, they call us to enforce their trespass warnings, quote unquote, and I say that word enforce as in educate.
Right.
So to come because of what happens around the nation with the you don't know who you're dealing with, you don't know if they have weapons, you don't know what their intentions are.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that a lot of society fears other people in society. I feel like we're all kind of an extension of the same entity, and it's sad that a lot of people are in fear, and there's a lot of people out there doing bad things. I'm sure, being a police officer, you run into more of the bad guys than I would, but yeah, I know they're out there, and I really appreciate law enforcement for being out there to take care of those kind of problems, because I'm too passive. I could never handle a situation where someone wasn't being at least socially cool, or in a social manner. I mean, I can help people with a lot of their own personal problems and maybe small financial issues, but when it comes to aggro people or people who are acting hostile, I don't know that I have the skills or training to ever deal with such things. So that's why I hold your job, you in high regard. So I just thank you again for that.
Appreciate it. So let's go back to this over here. Thank you for that, by the way. Do you if you want to file, if you're looking to file a formal complaint on Officer Heller, I am in no way, shape, or form swaying you from doing that. I just want to know what your intention is. I'm getting off shift, so if that is the case, I would defer you to the night shift sergeant who just is coming on duty as I'm going off. Or if you want to specifically deal with me, if you're going to be in town tomorrow, I start my shift at 5:45 a.m. and could meet you somewhere to complete that process. Or if you are bringing this to my attention so that I can educate,
Yes.
I appreciate it, and I value the call and the information and the feedback from everyone in the community and in the city about how my guys are doing. So, what direction would you like to take?
Yeah, this did not require a formal complaint. I mean, the officer obviously was not. He was not being. I wasn't, harmed. No one was arrested or beat up. So it was really the main situation was that I felt like I was in a situation where I hadn't done anything wrong, and Officer Heller was enforcing his own will through the color of law in a situation where he did not have the authority to do so. And if they did get a call, then that would totally be different. But so far, no data leads me to believe that Home Depot called. But yeah, I'm just calling you to report it to you. I'm not looking to file a formal complaint on him.
I appreciate it, and I can definitely see why you would think that after trying to get the call information and none exist. I can totally get that. So I also have a question as to why that information was being told to you. So just so you know, I will be dealing with him first thing in the morning to find out his side as to why he's saying that, because I don't want any one of my officers giving anyone in the city false information like that. So I would also have an issue with that if that's the case. I'm not saying it is.
Right.
I obviously, of course, I'm hearing your side. Now I need to hear his side.
I understand. Yeah.
See if this Ron character does exist, and if
well, he does exist. And my manager Craig told me he comes back on at 6:00 a.m. But Manager Craig was on right now. Manager Craig assured me that wasn't the case. He said I can't speak for Manager Ron. He said I've worked for him for over a year, and then he went on to say the only way someone would have called the police is if you refused to leave. And so that led me to believe that he was being genuine. And yeah, if I'm mistaken, but there really is no data that would suggest it. Like the officer came straight to the bus. He didn't go toward the Home Depot. There's no call log for a call number. We had just had an interaction right before that with the officer that was in the SUV, who we discussed about our auditing, and I told him about the channel that we have. We're one of the early auditors. Like 8 years ago, we started auditing, so we've been doing this longer than most anybody else on the internet. So I was very clear with that guy, who was really kind. I mean, he said his father had a bus like ours. And a really cordial conversation, and within seconds after him pulling off is when Heller pulled in, and nothing made sense, because if we were really asked to be trespassed through a call, then the officer in the SUV would have also had that data. But within seconds after he pulled off is when Heller pulled in. Yeah, it doesn't add up.
My last question for you: was he respectful to you, Heller? Was he rude to you?
I've seen ruder, but I'm an auditor. He walked away after saying, he said twice, they want you to leave. I told him, I said, that doesn't sound right. He says, I said, no, they don't. He was condescending, so he wasn't rude, but the word condescending would be appropriate. And then when he was leaving, I just said, well, goodbye, Officer Heller, because I'd already read his tag. He just randomly shouted out his badge number as if, like, in a condescending way. So while he wasn't rude, he definitely wasn't as professional as I would have expected him to be.
Okay. I appreciate the information, and know that I will address it with him in the morning.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Mondello. You have a great evening tonight.
You too, sir. Thanks.
God bless you.
Good luck.